And this is next door's cat. He likes to come and say hello, don't you, sometimes? Hey, Mr. Kiddles. I don't even know what your name is. I don't even know what your name is. Never like stroking a cat. Because they go from super cute to tearing a piece of skin out of your hand in very short order. Don't you? Right, I got welding to do. Well, I'm never going to win any awards for my welding, but it's in there and it's rock solid. So that's 2 patches done, 2 to go, and then 2 in there. And it's bloody raining again. We had 1 day of sunshine, 1 day, and it's raining again. It's been raining now for over a month, and it's May. And after much welding and a bit of chemical metal just to fill the seams, because we're going to paint it, our patches on the driver's side are in. Thank God for that. So just need to sand those back, flatten them back a little bit, give it all a good paint, and will be something like it on this side. Makes me a happy boy. Before I move on to that side, of course. Needs a little clean in the hoover, but that is that floor done. Nice. Right, so I've got to tackle this floor next. So my original plan was to get in there and seam up all of these edges, because we've got a full metal plate underneath going all the way to the front. So it made sense to seam onto that rather than put a replacement floor in, which is what I've already taken out, because the original floor, as you can see, isn't actually that bad. I mean, I haven't actually dug into it yet, but it doesn't look that bad. It's sort of, you know, 3/4, if not more, okay. So my new thought is, instead of seaming it up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack all of those down rather than seam them. And the reason is, if I seam them, what I'm doing essentially is creating pockets underneath here that are still going to have rust in them, and I'm going to be basically sealing those pockets, and that rust is then going to want to come out, you know, for in future. So I'm going to get a paintbrush underneath there with some rust eater, pour it in through the holes, basically give the whole thing a good dousing in rust eater, and then just tack it down to make it look pretty. And what I'll probably do then is fill the edges. And the reason, again, part of that is because it doesn't actually need to be seamed. You know, we've got a replacement steel panel that runs underneath the entire car, so we don't need to seam it. We don't even need that floor in there at all, because we've got a new floor underneath it. Originally it only had 1 floor under it, just the floor you see. So we've now got a floor and a half. So hopefully you sort of understand my thought process there. So that's what the plan is anyway. Tackle the rust, tack it down. I'll probably still weld in a few replacement patches over some of the smaller ones, and then just fill it and get it looking nice, because like I say, it's already got the structural strength from the new floor and extra structural strength from having the old floor, so it's already got more than what it had when it left the factory. So I don't need to worry, you know, spend days going in there seaming all that back up again. So we'll see how we go, but I'm going to have a little dig into it first of all and just see what the what is. Yeah, so that's now been wire wheeled over all the rust spots, rust treatment put down. You can see it's not looking quite so, well, rusty. Cleaned up all the old carpet, etc, etc. Like I say, it's a solid floor. So I climb inside. It ain't going anywhere. So, as you can see, we've wire wheeled up some of the edges of those holes. Now we can start to tack it with the welder and the panel hammer, start to pinch those 2 bits together, and yeah, try and get this bloody inside done. I know I've only been doing it for a week or so, but it feels like forever. It really does. Just when you get one bit done, you think you're winning, and you realise you've got another big bit to do. And I haven't even started the outside of the body yet. But, fingers crossed, the outside of the body actually looks surprisingly straight. Doesn't look too bad at all. So what I'll do is get the DA sander on it, get it back to bare metal, and then just block fill the whole thing, get it nice and straight. You know, it's one thing taking a few liberties with the inside. You know, if you know it's got structural strength, you know, there might be bits where if you took the seats out it wouldn't look quite so nice. You can see the welding patches, etc. But it doesn't really matter on the inside, you're never ever going to see it. Seats, carpets, whatever, you're never going to see it. Of course, the outside of the body, that's the bit everyone's going to see, so that's the bit that you really need straight. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that most of the outside is straight and nice. But as always, I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to finish this job before I worry about doing the next one. I know I said I wasn't going to weld any patches in, but I've put a couple in there. Just on the uprights there, where it joins the sill and joins the cross member, and a small one down there. Just to worst them, if you like. The other ones there have actually already been, there's one there that's already been seamed up, and the other ones are close or they're small. So as I said before, not too worried about those. Plenty of strength in the floor. So all I'm trying to do really is just make it look pretty. Okay, it's been a busy couple hours, but I'm calling that floor done. So as you saw, I ended up putting a few patches in just on the worst areas, tacking down some of the other areas just for my peace of mind, if nothing else. Giving it a quick splodge of filler over some of the seams just to level it out a little bit, and that's just a fresh coat of black Camerite. So, of course, you can still see all the dips and dents where the you know, where the patches are, but you know, unless you put a fresh floor in, then you're always going to have that. But as I said 100 times, by the time you put the seats and the carpets and everything back in again, you're not going to see any of it. So who cares? As long as it's structurally sound, that's all I'm really worried about. So just need to do that footwell now. On first inspection, it looks pretty solid, so I'm hoping that's going to be a nice simple one. That will just be a clean back, a buzz down, and a repaint. But you know, nothing surprises me with this car anymore, so I'll expect more welding. But if there is, that's fine, because that'll be the last bit to do then on the inside of the shell. Right, so I also picked up a new body mounting bolt kit, because I've got a few of these bolts, but the rubber washers are all perished, and I've got a few odds and ends lying around, so I don't think I've got enough to do the whole thing. And obviously when it comes to mounting the body to the chassis, you know, you want to do it right, don't you? I don't want to go around the first corner feeling pleased with myself and then have the body roll into a ditch while the chassis goes over the edge of a cliff. That would be bad. Only problem is, it didn't come with any instructions as to what bolts go where. So now I've got to try and look up online and find out where these all go, because I haven't got a clue. So back down in the workshop today. One of the things we're going to look at is this monstrosity. So there's two of these, one in the driver's side, one on the passenger side, I believe. They're just basically pockets. This one sits underneath the steering wheel, so the steering wheel would be here somewhere, and this sits down to the right. Normally the sort of place you chuck your keys in or whatever have you, just a little pocket. Now most modern cars, of course, these are made of injection molded plastic. These ones are actually made of a composite material which feels basically like cardboard. I think it's just a cardboard with like a plastic sort of veneer over the top of it. And of course, because it's made of cardboard, it is just, as you can see, just a flimsy, floppy, not particularly well put together. Yeah, so I've given it a quick clean because it was full of dust and mud. So I've given it a quick clean out. Now, because I've had to get it wet to clean it, I'm going to have to let it dry. But the plan basically is with this is we need to make it rigid so that we can, you know, repaint it and bring it back to life again. So I think the way we're going to do it is, it's going to be the same way I'm planning on doing the transmission tunnel and the handbrake rest, because they're made of a similar sort of fibrous material. It's going to be to soak it in a polyester resin, same as you'd use for fiberglassing, which hopefully will soak into the fibres of this, and then obviously when it goes off it will give it some rigidity. So what we'll have to do is make up some kind of jig to hold it in the right sort of shape once we soak it full of resin, or possibly do part at a time. I haven't quite worked it out yet. Hopefully get it back out to its full shape and then soak it with resin so that it becomes rigid, solid, and then we can obviously put it back in the car again. That's the plan anyway. How well it's going to work, I don't know, but we'll give it a go. As always, if it needs be, I'll buy a new one. Okay, but so the sandwich idea didn't work. Then I will. Theory was fine, but the problem with the polyester resin is that it's too viscous, it's too thick. So what's happened is it hasn't actually soaked into the card properly. It went into the very top layer, but wouldn't penetrate the other layers. So yeah, didn't work. So all we've done is we're just going to fiberglass it properly. So cut a piece of mat to size, put some resin on it, lay it out on a nice flat board like this, just to keep it in a nice flat shape, so get into its final shape basically, and then just yeah, cover the whole thing in polyester resin. We'll leave that to go off. That's going to give it some nice rigidity on the side. You're not going to see it. We'll paint it afterwards. It's going to be up under the dash where the steering wheel is anyway, so you're not really going to see the sides of it at all. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but we'll make it look pretty anyway. And then we'll do we'll do at least the two sides. We'll do this side. We'll do the other side as well, and that should be fine to give it the rigidity. I won't need to do the bottom and the back of it because, you know, the glass in these seams here is going to hold that shape quite nicely on the other side as well. Then we just do a few little repair bits, like down here where it's torn through. We'll just put a bit of glass over that, both sides, and clamp it in. Re-drill the hole afterwards. And then we'll give it a lick of paint, and we should be good to go. Wondering what it is we do down in the workshop here. We build costumes. So we build movie-grade costumes from Star Wars and other films. I wonder how many of you recognise this. Steadicam arm. Steadicam harness, and then we custom make them into this. So some of you may recognise that. That is the smart gun rig from Aliens. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll insert a picture of it here. We also make Star Wars costumes like these, and we also do Ninja Turtles like these. Yeah, so something a bit different. So if you're wondering why I put so much effort in to fiberglassing those pockets rather than just buy new ones, it's because we've got all the equipment here. We've got the fiberglass, we've got the resins, you know, silicone, plastic, all the bits and bobs, all the tools we've got. So, you know, it doesn't cost anything to do this, it just takes a little bit of my time. And that's why I'm here anyway, whilst I'm waiting for other things like paint to dry or filler to go off. You know, I can splooge a little bit of fiberglass on, and it's no bother. Anyway. This is the sun visors. So both of these were, as you can imagine, in a sorry state, same as the rest of the car. They were filled with some kind of fibrous filling. I don't know what it was, but basically it turned into powder. It sounded like a box of cereal when you touched it. So what we've done is we've ripped them open. I say ripped them open. We've split them open carefully along the top seam. Emptied all the crap out, cleaned them out. Taken the metal parts out. And just make sure these are all moving nice and freely. These are all oiled up. And then cut a piece of plywood just to fill that gap in the middle. So instead of using some sort of fibrous, thick card material that they seem to love to use in this car, which is obviously just going to fall apart at a later date, we just hot glued a little bit of plywood in there just to make it nice and firm and secure. And then also we can put that back inside the cover there. Super glue the seams up, and then we'll give this a full colour restore, same as we did on the rest of the dash parts. Clean it back and then get it the back to black stuff on there, and that seems to work very, very nicely, and they can obviously then be screwed back on afterwards. The only problem is I need to find a little mirror for this one. I've done both of them, but obviously this one, the mirror was cracked inside it, so I need to find a little mirror to go in there. I was tempted to put a little funny picture in there, but I probably won't bother because, you know, the missus might actually want to use the mirror. Or maybe I want to use the mirror if she's ever driving it. I can't ever see her driving it, but who knows. So yeah, another one of those little jobs ticked off the list. And just need to find a mirror, glue them shut. This is the other box. So this is the one that goes in the passenger footwell. And this one is a really weird shape. So as you can see, there's a hole in the back of it, which we fiberglassed up. But it's this really weird sort of shape. That sort of right-hand side it's not, when you think of a box, you think of sort of flat sides, right? Well, this one isn't. That side sort of sweeps out around to the right, and it covers in some of the heater pipes. As best I can tell at the moment, it's quite hard to tell. But basically, I've done the same as the other one. It's had a layer of fiberglass on the outside, just to give it some rigidity. A bit of resin in there as well. Obviously, it ain't pretty. It ain't much to look at, but you're never going to see it. All you will see is that aperture when it's in the car. Now, it's still a little bit winky wonky because obviously it's made of card, and when you soak something in fiberglass, it's very difficult to then sort of manipulate it. You have to sort of put weights on top of it and try and get it roughly back to the right shape. But it's in a much better shape than it was previously. And once it's got the bar that runs along the bottom to actually pinch it all up into the right shape, I think it'll be fine. If I put it in there and it looks like shit, then obviously I'll just scrap it and I'll get some new ones. But I'm hoping that I can sort of, again, manipulate these with some screws and some bolts to fit in there quite nicely. And then again, that hole on the inside, or the couple holes there, that one looks like a proper hole. That one obviously isn't a proper hole. That one looks like the mice have been in there. But I'll fill that, rub it back. This will then get a fresh lick of black paint inside. And hopefully once it's back in the car, it will actually look okay. But we'll see. So that is both of those done now. Those pockets, that's the driver's door and the passenger door pockets done. Bit of fiberglass, bit of hot glue. And then we'll give it a bit of paint afterwards and see how they turn out. As you can see, we're sort of, nailing down a lot of the odd jobs now. I'm still doing the interior bodywork, and obviously there's still lots more to do, but for the time being, we're just sort of getting these little bits nailed down when I'm in the workshop. When I'm at home, obviously I deal with the big stuff, and when I'm down at the workshop, when I'm meant to be working, I'm also doing these little things on the side. If I've got some resin curing in a mould, like this one for example, then I need to leave it a few minutes for the resin to cure out. So whilst I'm doing that, I can come over here and then cut a bit of wood, etc. So it's just sort of trying to use my time efficiently to get all the jobs done at the same time. Doesn't always work out that way, of course, but there we go.